So now we're going to go really into the judging process. What does that look like? Should you be a judge? So some of the best management practices is that we really encourage that there's this consultative, or what we call conference judging, is where the young person has the ability to discuss their exhibit with you as the judge. That is the best learning environment so that questions can be asked and answered during that time. Also, that you would be working through that scorecard or standard when you're having that conversation with the young person. And then in addition to, saying those verbal comments, we also suggest that there's written things down as well, because sometimes that young person is a little nervous and can't remember everything then, and so they can go back and learn from those comments at the end of that process as well. So what do we suggest? So all the different environments are a little bit differently, but hopefully that 4-H member can sit either beside or across from the judge so that there's easily a way to have that conversation. When I picture county fairs, and especially foods judging, there's just lots going on at that time. So hopefully you can provide that opportunity so that the judge and 4-H member can sit either across from each other or sit beside each other. So we suggest as a judge that you introduce yourself and ask the member their name, try to put that 4-H'er at ease, and then again, provide those written comments. And one of the things that what I found is easy is using what we call the sandwich method to provide feedback. And what that looks like then is to start with 2 positives as you start that judging process. Then discuss one way to improve, add another positive, and then end with a 1 or 2 word descriptor which defines the 4-H member's capability. And those of you who have had experience judging knows that when you've judged probably 50 kids or 60 kids, it is hard to remember what you've said. So having this kind of in your mind is a good way to work through that process. So what are some suggested positive comments? So here's some verbiage that you could use. I like how. I can tell you enjoyed this because. You handled such and such very well. I can tell you learned a new skill by how you should feel proud because you did a great job of following the project standards by. And then it's important to have constructive comments as well. Many times we hear from 4-H members it's like, well, they didn't understand the ribbon placing because there wasn't any comments about what they could do to improve. So the constructive comments could be, the next time you might try some other ideas to try. It would be helpful if, it may be helpful to practice before you make or bake this again. And as you work on this, an important thing to remember is, so that learning, again, that opportunity, how do I improve? What can I do better for next time? So here are some suggestion questions to ask. Tell me about how you selected this particular exhibit to compete this year for the fair. It's always interesting to see where they got that recipe, whether it maybe was their grandmother's or somebody in the family. What was your favorite part of making this exhibit? What was the most important thing you learned? Again, going back to that key focus that we do in 4-H youth development is making that learning process. And then if you had the chance to do this again, what would you do differently? Back to the experiential learning model of do, reflect, and then apply. So they've made it once, reflect on it. What would they apply next time? What was the most difficult part of baking this item? And how will you use what you learned next time? So we've been asking them, maybe some of those suggestions that you've made, what would they do next time to improve? And ask them how you've shared what you learned with others. So what is the parent's role in the judging process? So basically just remember that the judging conversation is between you as the judge and the 4-H member. So find a way for parents to be close enough to hear the judging conversation, but they should try to intervene. This conversation is between you and that 4-H member. And then again, the importance of written comments and markings on that scorecard in case somebody didn't hear what all would be helpful in the future. One of the things too is that Asking, letting the 4-H member have a time to ask questions as well is important, to have that conversation.